Hi everybody and welcome. Can I just ask, if you haven't muted, can you please mute yourself so that we don't have any echoes of sound while people are talking? Thank you. I'd just like to welcome everyone for coming today. I know it was organized at short notice, so I'm really excited that you could all make it here today. Before we get started, I just want to introduce myself. My name is Manisha. I'm the Director of Planning Budget Personnel here at the City of Cambridge Police Department. I'm lucky to be joined by Sheila Keedy-Rawson, the Director of Personnel for the City of Cambridge. Sheila, do you want to say hi?
Good evening, everybody. So glad to see everybody here.
We've also got Howard Bruce and Keith Costello from the Civil Service.
Good evening.
And with us today as well, we've got several members of CPD, some who've been here a long time and some who are fairly new. We've got Officer Sean Dillon, Officer Delaney Albert, Officer JJ Jones. If you guys want to just say hi quickly.
Hey, everybody.
Thank you for making it, guys. Really appreciate it. So, and I'd also like to introduce Jeremy Warnick, who's our PIO, who's also in attendance today.
Good evening.
He's the brains behind this. So thank you, Jeremy, for pulling this together. So just in terms of format today, we are going to have our officers speak first to tell you a little bit about what makes CPD unique, their experiences here at CPD. Also, what they did in terms of getting ready for when they took the exam, what they could have done better, or what they've learned from the process as they've been through it. With that, I think I'm just going to get started. Officer Delaney Albert, do you want to go first?
Yes, ma'am. So I'm Officer Delaney Albert with Cambridge Police. I graduated from the academy in June, so I'm still pretty new. I first got into policing because my family is filled with police officers. It's provided a lifestyle that I've always admired and sought, and it's stable. It's a dependable job, and it's an opportunity to help people in ways that most careers don't get to every day. A little bit about how I prepared for getting into the civil service test and starting to get ready for the academy. I actually bought that giant book. I'm not sure, I think it's just an entry-level civil service exam book. And I read the whole thing. I took all the practice tests. I'm not a very good standardized test taker, so I spent a lot of time reading through that. And then physically, I've always been kind of an athlete, but the push-ups were a big challenge for me, especially as a female with the upper body strength. It's a little bit challenging. So I spent a lot of time, couple years getting my push-ups ready, really, because I wanted to be in as best shape as possible for the academy so that everything else would be a little bit easier. And I found that the less stress there was, knowing that I was physically prepared, I had a little bit more time to focus on other things such as studying. Like I said, not the best test taker. So I had a little bit of time to focus on academics, I guess socializing with some of my classmates, practicing defensive tactics, so on and so forth. Working, policing in the city of Cambridge. Obviously, I've never done it anywhere else, but I think that it's a great city. It's a city to be proud to be a part of and to work for. I think that Cambridge is in a unique position financially, and there's so many resources that allows the police to be very progressive. It allows the police to invest in training all of their officers. And also, you are giving the officers the tools they need to do their job in a sustainable way, a fair way. The academy we go to really educates you on how to be a good police officer, how to be a good person, not just basic tools and training. So I think Cambridge is different in that way. I think Cambridge as a community really embraces change. They're not afraid of change. And as a community, I think Cambridge is focused on implementing new ways of doing things and finding new solutions and ways to best serve the community, using the resources that we do have and finding those that are recommended. I think that a positive thing about Cambridge as well is most people have deep roots in the community. There is the residency requirement, so everyone kind of has that camaraderie of it feels like a smaller town, but you do get the experience of being in a city. So it's an exciting day at work. And I think lastly is one misconception of being a police officer in Cambridge is probably that you're using your police powers every single day. You might be every day, but most of the time it's responding to calls for service, interacting with the community, getting to know people, and really just problem solving, communicating with people. And something that the Cambridge Police Academy actually focuses on is giving you those tools of being able to communicate with people, de-escalate people. And you don't always have to go to those police functions necessarily. Again, I think Cambridge is a great place to work, and I wouldn't want to be a police officer anywhere else.
Thank you, Delaney. Can I ask Officer JJ Jones, can you give us a little bit about your background? You've been here with us for a while, and you've seen policing change in Cambridge. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Hi, yeah, I'd love to. My name is Officer JJ Jones. I've been a police officer for 21 years now. It's crazy. I started my career in the Department of Corrections, and then I went to the Winthrop Police for a couple of years, and then the Revere Police, and eventually I landed my dream job of being in Cambridge back in 2008. Policing has changed quite a bit since then. I'm from a police family as well. It's actually one of the reasons why I wanted to be a police officer. My dad was a police officer. He was a lieutenant in Somerville. And I don't know, I was always that guy who sort of stuck up for the person who was being picked on in high school. And so it felt like policing was sort of if it wasn't going to be, some big athlete, I felt like policing was going to be kind of a natural fit. And oh man, was I right? Because I honestly couldn't imagine myself doing anything else. I'm in the Family Services Unit in the Cambridge Police Department. And so what we do is we work in the schools and the teen centers. We go to community events, and we go to parades and festivals and all that relationship building stuff. And a huge part of why I love what I do is because we get to be there before before kind of the bad stuff happens, right? We get to be proactive as opposed to reactive. So when we're in the schools and we're building these relationships, we're in the cafeteria with the kids, or we're connecting families to services. It's a huge part of why I love what I do. I get to kind of meet the kids young and get to know them, and then as they grow. Actually, I think Officer Dillon's on now. He was a part of my boxing program many years ago, and I'm so proud of him to kind of see how far he's come, and now I tease the kids sometimes. I say, they ask me what it's like to be a police officer, and I'll say, I don't know. Well, maybe one day we can be partners. And this is Officer Dillon's here, and it's kind of one of those instances where it sort of came true, and it's a good feeling. In our unit, we do a bunch of different things. Like I said, like I mentioned, we work in the schools, but also we connect with elder services. We do homeless outreach. We really try to work with the most sort of at-risk communities in the city, which is unlike many other cities. A lot of cities that maybe they just don't have the resources, but we're able to really focus on people who really need our help, besides just responding to call after call after call. So I'm not sure if I answered your question, but yeah, I honestly couldn't imagine myself working anywhere else or doing anything else. I absolutely love what I do, and I'm so proud to work for the city of Cambridge. It's an incredible place to be.
Thank you, Officer. That was a great synopsis of only a portion of what you do here, and we're so proud to have you on our team. Detective Pasquarillo, I apologize that I neglected to introduce you at the beginning, but you've had the opportunity that's, I think, unique in some ways. You've been in patrol and now you're in criminal investigations. Would you mind talking about some of your experiences there?
Sure. Hi, everyone. Detective Pasquarillo. I've been with the Cambridge Police Department since 2017. I was on patrol on the alternating shift, which is nights, for about 3.5 years, and then I came up to detectives. I'm really fortunate because I get to see every day firsthand all of our officers' hard work. All of their reports get forwarded to detectives, and we do all follow-up. So it is nice seeing a case go from open to close and seeing that process and the final disposition, whether it go from court or whether it just be assisting a victim with resources. We're very fortunate in Cambridge that our city has the benefits and the resources that sometimes other towns and other departments in the state don't have. So there's a lot of assistance that makes our job a lot easier because we're able to assist the victims or maybe someone that's experiencing homelessness. It just makes our job a lot easier, and the fact that we're in Cambridge just helps so much. Kind of day-to-day cases will be assigned to detectives. So for example, Officer Albert might get a case, whether it be a break-in or maybe a dispute between roommates, and we will get the opportunity to follow up and see how we can resolve that and really just see how we can assist the community. And a big part of our job is really just interacting with the community, which I think is a common misconception. A lot of people might think that officers and detectives, one of our main jobs is making arrests or things of that nature, but really it's just communicating and seeing how we can assist people in times of needs. We're often dealing with people maybe on their worst day, and sometimes it's just a simple phone call or a simple meeting where you're seeing how you can work through the problem together. And like I said, it's a lot easier in Cambridge where you really have the resources to help everyone. Definitely my time in patrol helped me to get into this position. I applied for a lot of trainings, and Cambridge is big on making sure that their officers and their detectives are trained. So we have in-service yearly, which assists in anything new in terms of policing. And then what makes Cambridge different, I think it's just the way that we do have support from the command staff. We have a peer support team that assists officers as well. And then prior to the academy, similar to what Officer Albert said, I got the book, I went to the information sessions. I know that the PAT was something that I was nervous about just because I wasn't sure what to expect, but Cambridge actually puts on a mock PAT to kind of get you familiar with the process, and you get the opportunity to see what you might need to work on prior to doing the real PAT, which is the physical abilities test. So I found that very helpful, being able to do that prior, and you kind of get a sense of what the academy is going to be about if that's something you might be nervous about. So that's something that helped me a lot. And if there's any other questions, I'm happy to answer those.
Thank you, Detective. Officer Sean Dillon, you've grown up here in Cambridge and you're a local kid and you went to the schools and saw Officer JJ, obviously. So can you talk about how that's helped you, how it's helped you shape your opinion of the Cambridge PD, and then what you did in being one of our newer officers, what you did to get ready for the PAT and the exam itself?
Sure. Good evening, everyone. I'm Sean Dillon. To kind of answer the first question, I think officers like JJ, Steve Allen, Michael Whitey, just to name a few, helped me make the decision because it was a tough decision on whether I wanted to join or not, just because where I come from. So I come from a low-income housing development. My family was poor and stuff like that. So I kind of seen the opposite side of policing for like majority of my life. But seeing people like that, I think is important for representation, and that's kind of why I joined as well. I'm not sure if I didn't see them, I wouldn't join. I would have joined the department just because, I can't see anybody who I could look up to and like take those necessary steps. I could go on all day about that, but basically, for the PAT and stuff, for me, I'm usually in shape. I play a lot of sports like JJ and stuff like that. So I kind of just upped up the intensity of my workouts. I want to be in the best shape possible, like Officer Albert stated. She was my classmate, so I think, and also your diet is important. What you eat, not only what you eat, but like what you surround yourself with, your environment, the media you have access to, your friends. It's like that's important. Coming where I come from, it's easy to kind of go off the rails and do stuff illegally. But my goal is just to inspire and show people like it's possible, like people have done before me. So hopefully I answered the question. But
That's fantastic. Thank you so much, Sean. At this point, I think what I'd like to do is we can save questions that we have for the officers at the end. I thought I'd give Bruce from Civil Service. Do you want to give an overview of the process itself and some key dates? And then I'll turn it over to Keith to give us some more details about the exam.
Sure, thank you. Thanks for having us this evening. We always enjoy coming to these events. Certainly easier doing it virtually, but either way, we do enjoy coming. I've been with Civil Service or Human Resources Divisions at Civil Service Unit for about 21, 22 years now. So I've seen the exam evolve over the years. I've seen the process evolve over the years. What I'll always tell people though is, especially now with the internet, there's some great resources available to people on our website. And it doesn't take a lot of time. We encourage people, there's a study guide, I know it was referenced earlier. There's a study guide that walks you through the exam. It seems a little overwhelming, but to be honest, if you read through that, you're gonna do fine on the exam. There's a practice test at the end of it. It talks about the exam, which is not your typical exam that you expect. It's probably different than some of the veteran officers took to get on the job. It's an exam made up of 3 parts. There's a work questionnaire, a work style questionnaire. There's a life experience questionnaire. And then the third section is sort of the cognitive section that talks about deductive reasoning, problem solving. That's actually the smallest part of the exam. The other 2 portions of the exam take up a majority of the time, and they're not difficult questions, but you don't want to get bogged down in overthinking any of the questions because then you're going to fall behind and you won't finish. The key is to finish the exam, answer the questions honestly, and you'll do absolutely fine. But the study guide is the first thing you want to look at. Print that out from our website, spend some time with that at night, reading through it. There's one for the fire exam. It's a similar exam. If you want sort of a different practice test, you can try that one. Also on our website is the PAT, the medical standards, which is not a fun read, but certainly something you can go through to make sure you're going to qualify medically. You can bring it to your doctor to see, if there's any concerns your doctor has. But then the PAT, there's a video on our website. The PAT has changed over the last couple of years. So if you did take the exam or you heard about the PAT from like 3-4 years ago, it is different now. We used to be out of the National Guard Armory in Hudson. Now we have our own state-of-the-art facility in Hudson. And after a job analysis, we've designed new events to put candidates through. So again, watch the video. It doesn't take long. There's a physical ability test training guide if you feel that you need to get in shape for that. So definitely spend some time on our website. The key is to really pay attention to emails. You're going to apply for the exam on our website, and you'll get 2 confirmations. One, if you're applying and paying, you're going to get 1 email for your application. a second email for payment confirmation. If you're requesting a fee waiver, there's an opportunity to print out a form, fill that out, and email it to us to get the exam fee waived. And there's a list of about a dozen things that can qualify for a fee waiver, especially now where a lot of people were out of work due to the pandemic. You might have been on an unemployment for 6 months in the last year, that will qualify you for the fee waiver. So if you had some type of federal or state assistance in the last year, definitely take advantage of that. So once you've signed up for the exam, about 2 weeks prior to your exam date, the exam is beginning. I don't have it in front of me. I want to say, Keith, do you know when the exam begins?
March 16th.
March 16th. Okay. So once we can't do it all on one day because now we're doing it on computers, where in the past it was on paper pencil. So we're doing it over a course of days. So about 2 weeks prior to your scheduled day, if you apply now and you're scheduled to take it on March 16th, about 2 weeks before the 16th, you'll get a notice to appear telling you where to go and what time. If you're taking it near the end of March, probably March 15th, you'll get that notice to appear. So don't panic when you don't get it 2 weeks prior to the exam, but know you will eventually get it, and it'll have the date, the time, and the location that you'll take the exam. And again, as I mentioned, it's online. Since the pandemic, we've gone over to computer testing, where in the past, again, it's at a site, it's monitored, but it's on a computer versus having to fill in bubbles on a bubble sheet. So that's something to be mindful of. And that pretty much covers the application process and the study process. I'm sure Gilbert, who is here, he oversees the PAT in Hudson, and that staff as well exam administration on exam day. Keith assists him by supervising the exam administration unit itself. So they're great resources. Civil service at mass.gov is our website. Do not hesitate to reach out to us. We're pretty good at responding within 24 hours. Even on weekends, we're constantly monitoring that. We're not this big, bad government bureaucracy. I mean, literally, there's probably about 10 of us in the office trying to administer the fire exam, the police exam, corrections, all the promotional exams. So we do get overwhelmed at times, but our customers are the departments, the candidates that want to take these exams. We put customer service first. We're kind of, our hands are tied at times because there are statutory requirements that we have to follow. But taking the exam right now, I mean, there's not a lot of people. It's a great job, but a lot of people have kind of moved away from policing. I think it's a great opportunity. A lot of departments are seeing retirements. People are getting up there in years. So I think in the next couple of years, there's going to be a lot of opportunities in Cambridge and elsewhere. This exam also covers, if you're a Cambridge resident, you can select other towns, but also the transit police. It's local. It's another opportunity for folks in Cambridge to get involved in the transit police if you're not reached by Cambridge right away, because they are constantly hiring over at the MBTA. So keep that in mind when you get the opportunity to select locations where you'd like to be considered. And we'll be around for questions. That's sort of sums up the process.
Bruce, before we go to Keith, can I just ask you to answer the question about timeline? Yeah. So I know that the timeline begins once for students is when they take the exam, but in terms of hiring and in terms of civil service, when does the timeline begin? Yeah,
so the list, again, it's quicker. The process is a lot more streamlined and quicker than it has been in years past when it was paper pencil. But there's still, there's statutory requirements. There's still things that we need to do. So if you apply for the exam today, you get that notice to appear to take it in March. The eligible list actually doesn't come out until September. So yes, it is a little bit of a wait, but it gives you that time to mentally prepare, physically prepare, to taking that PAT, to getting sort of things in order to make sure, you've got transcripts, stuff that is going to be asked for in the background process. But September 1st, when that list comes out, you'll be able to go to our website, see where your ranking is on that list. You'll get your scores probably over the summer. We usually have those to you in about 30 to 60 days. Then that list will come out in September. You'll see your ranking on the list for both Cambridge and other departments. Now, from that point on, again, monitor your email. If you change your email, check your spam folder, check your junk folder. If you change your email, let us know. Everything is by email now. The opportunity doesn't come across that often. So when it does, you don't want to miss that opportunity. There'll typically be an email that says, if you're interested in the Cambridge Police Department, please appear at this address within the next 5 business days. You'll go in, probably, sign your interest in the position, and then you'll start the process with Cambridge. But it's important to check that email. Your name will be on the list for 2 years. So don't worry if you don't, on September 1st, you don't get a notification email saying that they're hiring, because Cambridge may not start hiring until December 1st, or whenever the MBTA is hiring, maybe January 1st. So be patient, keep an eye on Cambridge's website, keep an eye on our website. There is a spot off our homepage that says, I think it's vacancies, or who is hiring is the section of our website. So when we send an email to someone, we not only send it to your email, we also post it to your inbox in our online NeoGov system, but we also, for the 5-day signing period, we put that information on our website to say Cambridge has 10 police officer vacancies. So that's sort of your opportunity to then run back, check your email, check your inbox in NeoGov to see if you're one of those individuals that were reached. So again, keep your information up to date. If you're a veteran, make sure you get D214 to us. If you speak another language, you're going to want to make sure you check that off when you fill out the application. So you may speak Spanish, check that off, because there are departments that often ask for a selective certification, which is there's a need to hire a Spanish-speaking police officer. So all the information you can provide, it's not going to hurt you. It's only going to help you. And as I said, that list is good for 2 years. So that opportunity can come up at any point, can come up several times if there's a lot of hiring going on. Now, the one thing is different, and this question will probably be asked, so I'll bring it up now. This is the first time. We started it with the fire last year. This is the first time with the police officer exam. We're doing it on an annual basis. This does not mean that you need to take the exam annually. It means you have the opportunity to take it annually, but you have to really think about that. Your name is still on the list. You have a period of eligibility for 2 years. So if your list comes out September 1 of 2022, you can take it again and refresh your period of eligibility for September of 23 for 2 years, or you can write out your 2 years of eligibility and just take the exam in the spring of 24 if you wanted to continue to remain on that list. Now, people say, well, okay, what if I do better? Well, if you do better and you take the exam again in a year, then your name is going to be ranked with a different score. If you do worse, same situation. If you fail, then you lose that eligibility. So it's really something to think about. It's a decision you'll have to make when we offer it again a year after you've taken it. But it's definitely not necessary. A lot of people panic, they sign up for it, and we gave a lot of refunds during the fire exam because they didn't understand that they didn't have to take it again. So no, you don't have to take it again. Your placement on the list may shake up on that September 1st date in a year. But we'll see with the fire when we establish the fire merge list. I saw it once back in 2006, 2007. It was 1 year we did a police officer exam annually because there was so much hiring going on. We needed to refresh the list. And we didn't see a lot of problems there. People's placement on the list may move a little bit when you have that residency or you have that vet status or whatever preferences you have. It may change by 1 or 2, but in a place like Cambridge where they're doing so much hiring, or the MBTA where they're doing so much hiring, Boston, your opportunities are still going to be there.
Bruce, would you mind answering the question about the DD 214 for military preference veterans?
I'll probably give that to Keith. He's the one who deals with that regularly.
Okay, I'm just looking for the question in the
It just
chat.
says, who should I give the DD 214 to?
Best way is to mail it as an attachment to civil service at mass.gov. Email's the best way.
And there will be a question on the application that actually says, are you a veteran? Are you a disabled veteran? So yeah, you want to check that off. But as Keith said, the best way to get anything to us is through email. You can attach it to your application, but so many people attach so many different things. You can attach it, but it doesn't hurt to also email it to us. And we'll see that right away and confirm that we've received the email and get back to you.
I just want to add before we move to Keith that if you want to claim residency for Cambridge as a residency preference, you do have to live in Cambridge 365 days prior to taking the exam. So that's a key component of being able to become a Cambridge police officer. And I just want to make sure you're all aware of that. Keith, thank you for joining us today. You want to take over from here?
Yes, thanks, Manisha, and thanks to Cambridge Police for allowing me to speak here tonight. I've been working in test administration for civil service for about 8 years, and what I want to do is just kind of talk about some things to round out what you're going to experience as a candidate in the application, with the exam itself, and once you get on the eligible list. So the first thing I want to make clear is this exam, the 2022 police exam, is strictly for municipal and MBTA police officer. This exam does not include state police. Last year's did, and next year's potentially will. But if you're looking for state trooper, this is not the exam. This is strictly municipal and MBTA. In Cambridge would fall under municipal. I said the same thing last year, but I'll say it again. Probably the most important thing I can tell you tonight is when you sign up, make sure you sign up with your very best email address. Don't use your second or third address. Please use one that you check on a regular basis and that you have access to, because all correspondence is going to be through email. I know Bruce already talked about this, but I think it's worth bringing up again just because it is extremely important for you in this entire process. As you go to the application, this is an online application. It's very simple. It shouldn't take you more than 15 minutes. I will prompt you through all the way. The application is currently open and will continue to be open until January 18th. That is the first deadline. After that, there's a 2-week late period, which goes until February 1st. The difference is if you apply before January 18th, the exam will cost you $100. If you decide to apply after January 18th, it's going to be an extra $50. So if you're thinking of applying for this exam and haven't done so yet, definitely do it by January 18th just to save that extra money. No reason to pay more when you don't need to. As you go through the application, there's certain things you want to pay attention to. As already mentioned, residency preference. For this exam, the residency preference period is from March 16th, 2021 to March 16th, 2022. So you need to reside in the municipality for the entire 12-month span before the exam. If you're there for 11 months or 10 months, you're not going to qualify, and this will be verified by the department. So you want to be truthful when you answer this question. Also, veteran and disabled veteran preference. In Massachusetts civil service, we give what's called absolute preference, which means any veteran or disabled veteran that passes the exam will be ranked above any civilian who passes the exam. Therefore, if you have this preference, you're going to want to get credit for it because it's going to make a huge difference with your rank on the list. Also, employment experience. If you happen to have worked as a municipal police officer in the past, you can potentially get extra points on the exam depending on what documentation you send us. So that can also be a leg up if you've already been a police officer previously. Also, age limit, you need to be 19 years old by the exam date to take this examination. So if my math is right, I believe that would be March 16th, 2003. You need to be born on that date or before to qualify for this exam. Preparation, Bruce talked about this. There's an online study guide. That is your best outlet for getting familiar with this exam. It's very similar to the actual exam that you're going to be taking. It's created by the same company. It's very easy to get to. It's a PDF upload. And even if you're not going to really go in on it, I would recommend at least giving it a look just to get an idea of how the questions look and get familiar with how you would answer and things like that. So absolutely give it a look if you're thinking of taking this exam. For the exam itself, it will begin March 16th, and it's going to continue every day until we complete it. We don't have a solid end date yet because we don't know how many people are going to apply, but I can guarantee you that we will be testing every day, Monday through Sunday, and we'll be running multiple sessions a day. So basically, be prepared to test any day at any time. Last year, we did 4 sessions a day, 8, 11, 2, and 5 p.m., I believe, which will probably be a similar format this time. It will be given online like last year, which means it's on a computer at a testing center, which this does not mean you can test in your house or at Starbucks. It's going to be at a testing center with proctors, and it's going to be done properly. The exam's 2.5 hours in length, and we will be offering multiple exam sites throughout the state. We try our best to schedule people as close to where they live as possible, especially if you're from Cambridge. We should have some sites relatively close, so you shouldn't have to travel too far. The way you're going to find out where your exam is, you're going to get a notice to appear email. It's going to have all the information, where, when, what to bring, what not to bring, and all that stuff. So that's something you're going to want to start looking for probably the last week of February. And then depending on when you get scheduled, that's when you'll get your notice to appear. But regardless of your date, you will get 2 weeks prior notice. Also, if you're not able to make any of the exam dates, I know some people have prior obligations, or if you're in the military, we do offer makeup exams after March, which will happen roughly every 3 or 4 months throughout the exam cycle. So that's something that we can do for you upon request. After the exam, you don't really have to do much. If your contact info changes, specifically the email address, make sure you update it. Scores will be sent. We try to aim for 60 days out, which is going to be roughly the end of May. But bear with us though, as again, we don't know exactly when the exam is going to finish off. Once you get your score notice, it's going to tell you if you passed, if you failed, and it's also going to prompt you to select employment locations. What these are additional employment locations that are separate from your residency preference. They will not affect your residency preference. You can select as many municipalities as you want, and you'll be placed on those eligible lists below the residents of those towns. We just ask that you only select locations where you are willing to work. And as Bruce said, there's a pretty good gap between the exam date and when you actually become eligible. It's about 5.5 months. But once September 1st, 2022 comes, you will be eligible, and you will remain eligible for 2 years from that point. While you're on the list, understand that the list is fluid, so updates are constantly being made and the list will change. People are getting added, people are getting taken off. You can update residency preference if you forget to beforehand. If you gain veteran status within during the life of the list, you can update that, and therefore your rank will change. So it's not like if you don't have these preferences before, you can't change them. You will have the opportunity to change them later on. If you happen to get reached on the eligible list, you'll begin the hiring process. Most of this will be done with the hiring department. You'll encounter things such as an employment packet, background investigation, an interview. And if you do get a conditional offer of employment, you need to take a medical exam, and then you'll have to go to our testing facility in Hudson to run through the physical abilities test. We have 3 events for police. They all simulate the job functions of a police officer. We have obstacle course, a separation event, and a dummy drag. And if all goes well with that stuff, you will be sent to the academy. So, and that's pretty much where we hand off the applicants to the department. And that's pretty much all I have on my end. I don't know, maybe Gil or Bruce has anything to add.
Hi, Gil, thanks for joining. Before I just turn over to Gil, I just want to add that the since Cambridge Academy is an MPTC certified academy, we also have a test called the Cooper Standards Test, not administered by HRD, but that's also an entry requirement for the City of Cambridge Police Academy. Gil, would you like to talk a little bit about the PAT, which is administered by HRD?
Sure. Our facility is a fairly new facility. If you have not been privy to seeing our video, which we have online, it's a wonderful video. We've upgraded from our 1996 version. As Keith mentioned, there are 3 events: the obstacle course, which has it's 4 laps around our facility. It has 4 obstacles within the course itself. You will navigate through a window, also through an uneven terrain area, which has basically it's river rock that you'll run through. You'll scale a 4-foot wall and also navigate some stairs. There is some movement through some cones, zigzagging through cones. You will simulate a takedown with one of our weighted events, and then simulate a handcuff simulation as well at the end of that, which will stop your time. That event itself is can take anywhere depending on how fast you are, but the cut score is 2 minutes and 43 seconds for that. So it takes time. Someone mentioned in the chat earlier too about getting back in shape. One of the things that we preach is always stay in shape. As you'll see, that life of the list is 2 years in length, unless you take that offset year. But you always want to be ready because you never know when the municipality is going to call. If your residency is Cambridge, Bruce mentioned earlier about the larger communities will call because they're cycling through. We have seen statistically a lot of municipalities are having members that are retiring, and those are the types of situations that you kind of are unsure of. You don't know when that's going to happen. There could be 1, could be 5, but we always tell our candidates to make sure that they're always staying in shape. Because you never know when you're going to get that call. The second event it's back on that weighted bag. It's a separation control event. It's a fairly quick event. It's something that you will do twice for the clock to stop. And then our dummy drag event, it's a 165-pound dummy. It's a Rescue Randy, 165 pounds. It's 6 feet 1 inch long. It's dressed in clothes. And you'll drag it 25 feet. So it takes a lot of people by surprise when they do it. You will be afforded a preview of that course. So you'll come, right now our schedules are Tuesdays and Fridays. You'll come on Tuesday for the preview, and then the actual will be on Friday. So when you leave there on Tuesday, our monitors will work one-on-one with you on Tuesdays and make sure that you're comfortable when you leave that site. If you have questions, you want to make sure you ask it then. We've had candidates that our monitors will recommend take another preview. We don't want to see you fail. You're taking that step in this process to say you want to become a police officer for the city of Cambridge or for any other municipality in the Commonwealth. And yet we want to make sure that your safety is key as well as those that are going to be around you. So we want to make sure that you're in fact ready for that. We just don't want you to come in, go through the motion and say, oh, guess what? Now you're going to the academy. It's a job simulated duty. It's the minimum standards. So if that's something that you're going to struggle with, we want to make sure that you're ready and you can get through that because as Manisha said, the next step is those Cooper standards, and those are a lot. They're different. It's a run, it's sit-ups and push-ups, etc. So always stay in shape, and never take that day off because it could matter somewhere down the line. So I know Keith and myself. I'm not sure if Bruce stayed on. He had something he had to jump to, but I know we'll be around. I'll stick around at the end too if some others have further questions that we can take after the presentation.
Thank you, Gail. Officer Albert, would you mind talking about your experience on the Cooper standards?
Yes. So the Cooper standards, they were a little bit more intense than the entry-level PAT, as Mr. Fort mentioned. So the Cooper standard is the 1.5 mile run, 300-meter sprint, sit-ups, and push-ups. So I'm not sure what there's different standards for age and gender. So you can find that all online as well, I believe. But it is a little bit more intense. You have to spend a good amount of time preparing for that in advance as well. Like I said, I've been trying to become a Cambridge police officer for years now. I was spending years getting ready. So that was to my benefit, but it was also a weekly goal that I was setting to get ready for those standards. It wasn't easy, but yeah, it's a time commitment and you have to stay on top of it. I know a good amount of people, guys and girls in my class, struggled to make sure they were meeting the minimum standards and up until the last week of the academy to graduate. So it's definitely something worth putting the time into beforehand, not having to worry about it to graduate or to get in. Just keep running, I guess, is my advice. Keep running, keep doing sit-ups, keep doing push-ups. and it's easier when you do it every day because it just becomes routine. It's not as difficult when you keep doing it, really.
Gil, how many opportunities do you have at the PAT?
So for a civil service community, you get 2 bites at the apple. So if you were to not pass your physical abilities test on the first shot, you would get a second attempt that you could take within 16 weeks of the first failure. It seems like a really long time. We ask that you work with the municipality. Again, we try to get you to the point where you're not going to fail the first time. But if you are not to pass, we ask you work with that municipality, set up a date, more previews, whatever it may be. If you want to take a couple of weeks and come back, great. We do have a waiver that you can waive your 16-week period for that, but we'll work with you and the municipality to make sure that that next one is a success for you.
Thank you so much. I think at this time, if anyone's got any questions, they can raise their hand and I'll call on them. Derek, I think you have a question. You can unmute yourself. Derek, if you could unmute yourself.
Sorry about that. What happens if, God forbid, you fail the physical portion twice?
The municipality would have at that time, the municipality would rescind the conditional offer of employment. So you need to pass. It is a condition of hire, so you will need to pass the physical abilities test to continue through that process. It's typically one of the last steps of the process. As Mr. Costello mentioned, interview, backgrounds, psych, all that stuff. Municipalities do it differently. I'm not quite sure exactly what Cambridge's system is. Typically, the medical and PAT is one of the last pieces to the puzzle. So if you were to not pass your medical and or the PAT, they would have the right to rescind your conditional offer. Now your name would stay on the list. You go back on the list. So if Cambridge was to hire again and your name was reached for a vacancy, you get another 2 bites at the apple.
Okay.
I
Thank
see
you.
a question up there from Danny. Danny, if you want to unmute yourself.
Hi. So you have to take the PAT before you enter the academy, or you have to take a PAT and then the records exam also to enter the academy?
So the Commonwealth of Massachusetts initial hire physical abilities test is a condition of hire. So it's something that needs to happen to be hired by the municipality. Once you're hired by the municipality, the MPTC has a standard, which is what Officer Albert was mentioning, that those MPT standards need to be met as a condition of entry to the academy. So both things have to happen for your academy to continue. There's certain percentages that you have to meet along the way. I believe it's 30% of the standard is to start the academy and get in, and then you have to meet, I don't know the end part, but you'd have to increase in the percentile, I should say, that you need to meet within the standards will go up throughout the academy. Now, granted, you're doing, PT every day throughout the academy, so you should be getting stronger, faster, etc. And they have that again throughout the whole academy. You'd have to be at a certain percentage by the end to graduate from the academy.
Okay, and what was the name of the test again? I actually forgot the name of it.
Yeah, not a problem. So I put a link just a few moments ago inside of the chat for the MPTC Cooper standards. So that'll give you the cut scores that you would need based on age and gender. I also put a link to our PAT video in the chat. So it's the MPTC Cooper standards is the academy-based one, and the initial hire physical abilities test is the Commonwealth's exam.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome, sir.
Thank you. I see Sebastian. I think if I've pronounced that correctly. If you want to ask your question, you can unmute yourself.
Yes. Do you have to be Cambridge residents to be a police officer at Cambridge?
So yes, if you're claiming residency preference in Cambridge, you have to live in Cambridge for a full year before you take the exam. So like Gil mentioned before, it's March 2021 to March 2022. March 16th to be precise.
Thanks.
Any other questions? So I think if there's no other questions, I just want to go over some key deadlines again. So the application period has begun. It began on November 23rd. I think the early deadline is January 18th with it extended now until the late deadline of February 1st, Gil? Notices will be sent out on March 2nd with the exam beginning on March 16th. I did have a question. So several people have asked whether you can go back when you take the exam, if you can go, like say if you skip a question, can you go back to it at a later time during the exam?
The way that the current one is set up, there is only within the section itself. So each section, and there's 3 sections to the exam, each section has its own set of instructions. Once you submit that section, you cannot go back to that section. Within the section, the way they initially had it, you can navigate within, but once you submit it, you cannot go back.
So that's a key thing to remember, folks, when you take the exam. If you don't know the answer and you're ready to move on to the next one, I guess put something is better than nothing. So the last day to submit your employment experience is the March 23rd. With a release date to be determined and established date probably sometime in September. So those are key things. I would say from a department perspective, my advice would be eat healthy, be healthy, and focus. Just focus on the end goal there. Stay off of social media to the point where you're not putting anything embarrassing up on there, because that's going to become part of your background as you go through the hiring process. Don't get into trouble. Don't break any laws. Just be good, focus. JJ, you want to add anything? Or
No, just I'm happy to be here. Thank you so much. I think this is great. But if anybody has any questions, I'll stick around for a few minutes.
I think maybe Danny actually just raised his hand. Danny, do you wanna?
Yes. So yeah, I had one question, just a random thought. Like hypothetically, if you were to join the cadet, like cadet corps, and wanted to apply, also wanted to take the PEP and other course, does it only have to be through Cambridge for you to join the cadet corps, or can I join another cadet corps and still take be hired through Cambridge Academy?
We'd have to get back to you on that, but I believe that you do have to be a Cambridge cadet to be hired off of our list.
Okay.
Through that program, yeah. And what that enables everybody to do is, so if you're ages 18 to 23, you get hired as a 2-year program. It's an on-the-job paid training program for interested Cambridge residents to learn about our department, to see how we operate, what we do. It helps you prepare for the exam, helps you get fit, gets you into that mindset of becoming a police officer here at CPD. Unique insight that not many people get. What it does for you as a candidate for the police exam is you have to pass it and we can pull you from the list. So that gives you a little bit of a better chance than perhaps you would have had. And honestly, to get that experience, I wish we had some cadets here today to tell you the unique opportunities they got here at our department, to see the inner workings, the access to the unique training that they got on a daily, weekly basis, improvement on exam prep, on how to write reports, just to learn if the fit for them, the Cambridge PD fit for them, and they fit for us.
Okay, thank you very much for the information.
That's okay. Sebastian, do you have a question?
No, I'm all set.
Derek, do you have a question?
Yeah, just real quick to re-verify for the DD-214 veteran thing, just email it to him would probably be easier.
Yes, that would be the best means of getting it to us.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I just want to say we're just reaching 8 o'clock. So I want to thank everybody for their time today, and thank you. Huge shout out to the civil service for joining us. Really appreciate it. Thank you, Officer Albert and JJ Jones. And thank you, Sheila. Thank you so much for joining today. Appreciate it. If you've got any other questions, don't hesitate to reach out. Jeremy, do you mind just putting some contacts in the chat there, and everyone can reach out if they've got any further questions after this session?
Absolutely.
And we are also going to be holding some exam prep sessions. So watch our website. So we have someone come in and help you, guide you through the process of taking the exam, provide you some strategies, that kind of thing. That will be coming up in February. Also, we'll be announcing that shortly. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.